Have you pagpag'd yet? The sinister Filipino superstition that reveals terrifying secrets. Maria's breath quickened as she stumbled through the front door of their Maplewood home, the chilling wind wrestling her clothes and tossing shadows against the walls. Rain pummeled the ground, creating a symphony of chaos outside. She could feel it, the unsettling shift in the atmosphere that pressed against her chest. She had just finished another grueling shift at the convenience store, a job that barely paid the bills, much less allowed her to sleep soundly at night. But tonight felt different, heavy with a nameless dread. "Mom?" Alex's voice drifted from the darkness, tinged with fear. "Is that you?" "Yes, honey," she replied, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "Just got home. How was your day?" He didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the window, watching the shadowy figures dance under the streetlight, their movements unnatural, as if they were not just shadows but something sinister lurking just out of sight. A whisper, soft as a sigh, rustled in her ear. "Maria," it called, echoing through the empty hallway. She froze, heart racing. Her grandmother had told her about Pagpag'd, the dangerous return that lingers after visiting the dead. It sounded silly, a mere superstition. But the bite of fear in her gut told her otherwise. She shook it off. Superstitions were for the weak. Creeping toward the flickering shadows outside, the night felt almost alive, hungry, watching, waiting. Who could be calling her in the dead of night? "Have you pagpag'd yet?" The voice echoed in her thoughts. It was a taunting question, a riddle she couldn't answer. Maria couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her nerves felt like raw electric cables. She turned back toward the living room, hoping to catch Alex's eye, but he had receded into silence, a frightened ghost of the boy she knew. Before she could reach for a comforting word, sheer panic swept over her. The news flashed in her mind: the beloved community leader had disappeared. Everyone was talking about it, whispering behind closed doors like they all held dark secrets. The certainties of her tidy neighborhood were beginning to crumble. It was the month of the Harvest Festival, a time of family values and friendly smiles, but now, something sinister lurked beneath the surface. "Mom," Alex muttered, his voice a tremor, "I saw something in my dreams. They were looking for you." A chill ran down her spine. A pressure seemed to build in the air, making it hard to breathe. "It's just dreams," she said, but her voice wavered. She walked over to the Mitchells, her closest friends next door. Their door was always open, a safe haven. But even there, she sensed an unease. Before we continue, she thought, needing a distraction from the growing dread, "I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The shadows around her house flickered again, more pronounced and aggressive. They seemed to encircle her. As she pushed herself through the front door, a wave of nausea washed over her. Her mind raced back to those whispers of Pagpag'd. What had she brought back with her? Suddenly, an unmistakable knock echoed in the stillness. 3 sharp taps, urgent, demanding. Maria's heart pounded violently. She stood frozen, the room spinning, breath hitching in her throat. Every instinct told her to protect Alex, to run. Was it someone familiar? Friendly? Or did the predator wear a mask of safety? As the clock ticked toward midnight, a sinister voice whispered, barely audible, "Have you pagpag'd yet?" The darkness thickened, and fear leapt in her chest like a live wire. The night was far from over, and the truth was yet to be uncovered. The knocking intensified, splintering the silence like a shattered mirror. 3 more knocks, each one louder than the last, resonating through the hollow spaces of the house. Maria's skin prickled, a wave of ice creeping along her spine. "Mom, please," Alex whimpered, his wide eyes reflecting the dim light. Panic constricted Maria's throat. She had to act. Protecting him was all that mattered. With shaky hands, she approached the door, heart thundering in her chest. "Who is there?" She called out, her voice revealing her fear. Silence enveloped her in response, thick and suffocating. She pressed her ear against the door, hoping to catch some sound, anything. But all she heard was the rain, relentless in its drumming, and her own unsteady breath. "Mom!" Alex hissed, pointing frantically at the window. The shadows were moving, undulating shapes that seemed to grasp at the curtain, silhouettes twisting and curling as if alive. "They're trying to get in. Stay back!" she shouted as she whipped around, her feet burdened with dread. She grabbed Alex's wrist, pulling him away from the window. The urgency of the situation clawed at her, but it felt like a terrible dream, the kind where she couldn't wake up no matter how hard she tried. The knocks returned, more frantic this time, echoing like a heartbeat. It felt as if whatever was outside had become desperate, growing impatient. She glanced at the kitchen. An old butcher knife lay within reach, her only means of defense. Why hadn't she thought of it sooner? "Stay close to me," she instructed Alex, her voice strained as she moved toward the kitchen. Her fingers trembled as she grasped the knife's handle, the cold metal a brief comfort in her unnerving reality. The knocking persisted, each strike rattling her bones, indefatigable and merciless. Maria steeled herself. What if it was a neighbor? What if it was help? But the gut-wrenching anxiety urged her to think otherwise. The stories her grandmother told her echoed in her mind. Pagpag'd, if the spirits weren't properly cast away, they followed you home. Whatever happens, she whispered to herself, I need to protect him. As she turned back toward the door, the surface of the wooden frame pulsed a heartbeat of its own, each knock outrageous and chaotic. The undulating shadows were now slithering under the door. She could hear the scratching, grappling for entry. "Let me in." A voice slithered through the wood, barely human and chilling. It sent ice rippling through her veins. "Maria! Let me in. I've come to see you." Her hands shook, but she gripped the knife tighter. "Leave us alone," she cried, her voice rising above the cacophony of rain and darkness. "Get away." Suddenly, silence fell. A pit opened in her stomach. Had it left? Just then, the lights flickered and dimmed. The feeling washed over her. Something was inside. "Mom, I feel it," Alex gasped, eyes darting. "Something's in the house." Time stretched as she glanced around, searching for the source. The flickering intensified. Then, from the corner of the room, a shadow stepped forward, warping in the dim light. It wasn't just a shadow. It had a shape, a form. Maria, the voice was a haunting melody of despair, a creeping sound that snaked around her mind. "Have you Pagpag'd yet?" She backed away instinctively, Alex's terrified face reflected in the fear brewing inside her. Panic surged through her. What had she unleashed? Time hung thick in the air, every second stretching like a taut string pulled to the breaking point. And then she realized the door was no longer shut. Someone, was slipping inside. In that moment, she understood how deep this terror ran. And as her breath caught in her throat, she knew it was only the beginning. What awaited them was far worse than she could have imagined. Outside, the rain began to change, turning to a thick dark red. What did the night have in store? Maria's heart raced as the shadow flowed into the room, an odd blend of darkness and malice that twisted the air around it. It lingered just beyond the battered threshold, stretching its form as if assessing them, its voice a whisper that scraped against the walls. "Why haven't you Pagpag'd?" it asked, mocking her fear. "You should know better by now." The darkness twisted, revealing indistinct features, pale skin that seemed to glisten in the half-light, eyes that glowed with an unnatural light. It wasn't just a person, it was something far more ancient, a vessel for all the anger and grief left unspent. "Stay behind me," Maria commanded, positioning herself protectively in front of Alex. She couldn't lose him. Not now. But the shadows surged forward. They slithered along the floor, inching ever closer, testing her resolve. Each touch against her bare feet felt like a cold grip clawing at her sanity, pulling her deeper into a nightmare. "Mom! I don't want to die," Alex cried, his voice breaking. "Neither do I," she shot back, the knife trembling in her grip. Had it always felt this heavy? The entity stepped closer, its whispers echoing in her mind. Just let me in, Maria. Let go of your fear. Get away. She screamed, the shout echoing, as if trying to shatter this illusion. The air trembled, pregnant with unease. A sudden blast of wind rippled through the room, slamming the door shut behind them as if it knew they were trapped. Maria's eyes flickered toward the door, her gut telling her they had no way out. Have you forgotten the stories? The shadow taunted, its voice wrapping around her like a noose. When the Pagpag'd performed, I come to collect. Maria's thoughts raced. Her grandmother's stories, horrors embedded in folklore, flooded back. A chilling realization occurred, she hadn't honored the rituals. She had brought this upon them. The entity lingered in the dim corner, where the shadows melded into one another. For a blink, it looked almost human, then morphed again, a swirling mass of malevolence. A bang sounded from outside. Maria flinched. Were they alone? Was it only the rain, a dreadful symphony of chaos, or was it more? No! Alex yelled suddenly, his finger pointing toward the distant sound. Look! The window! She turned just in time to see the curtain rippling violently. A face appeared, distorted and twisted, peering through the glass with unnatural eagerness. Mom, help me! It cried, its voice allied with desperation. No, not again. The face was familiar, her sister, lost the last time the storm rolled through. Maria's heart shattered. This couldn't be real. You're not real. Let me in. It banged furiously on the window, compounding the suffocating panic gripping Maria's chest. It wasn't just a shadow, it was her past clawing back at her, begging for release. Close your eyes, Alex. Maria commanded. She couldn't let him see. The atmosphere thickened around them, as if the walls themselves were constricting. She felt the shadows whispering to her, trying to slip into her mind, to fill her with their malevolence, but she had no more time. She needed to act now. She chose courage. She had to confront this horror. Gripping the knife tighter, she took a step toward the entity, which seemed to pulsate with her resolve. The flickering light dimmed even more, and for a moment, everything was still. Then she struck, raising the knife in a desperate attempt to shatter the encroaching darkness. But as her hand plunged forward, the world fractured like glass, and the darkness twisted out of reach, laughing cruelly. Your fight has just begun. The shadow merged with the veil of the darkened room as the lights flickered into oblivion. Just as the flickering lights extinguished completely, a voice echoed through the depths. Wait till you see what's next. What would the nightmare reveal? What would it demand of her? In the lingering silence, fear gripped her tighter than ever. She steeled herself for the next wave, knowing all too well that this was only the beginning. Maria felt the darkness pulse around her like a living thing. The silence pressed heavy, wrapping tightly around them. Each breath turned treacherous, as if the air itself might suffocate her. She held the knife, a lifeline dangling in an abyss of dread. Mom? Alex's voice trembled, barely a whisper. He clutched her arm, his fingers cold as ice. Stay close, she warned, eyes darting to the window where the face had vanished. But she knew better. It would be back. They always came back. The shadows began to shift and churn, pooling into shapes that resembled her regrets, lost chances, fears she had buried deep. Wails and whispers filled the air, each sound a chilling reminder of what she'd left unacknowledged. You have to confront me, the shadows hissed in unison, voices layered like a funeral choir. Confront what? Maria shot back, shaking with defiance. You're nothing but a spook, a figment of my imagination. Yet even as she said it, doubt crept in. This felt too real. The walls began to bleed in a way that defied logic, drenching the room in a vivid crimson, as if the house itself mourned. Not your imagination, Maria, a voice rasped, colder than the grave. We are the guests you ignored. We are what you forgot. Maria glanced at Alex, his face pale with fear, and her heart twisted. She couldn't let this darkness consume her son, too. I won't let you take him. With a primal scream, she lunged toward the shadows, knife raised. She hadn't crafted a plan, she was fueled only by adrenaline and a fierce protective instinct. But as her blade met the darkness, it rippled through as if she had struck water, sending her reeling backward. The entity cackled, a sound that resonated through her bones. "You think you can escape the truth?" It shifted, taking form. Her sister's twisted visage reappeared, tears streaming black from hollow eyes. Maria pleased moaned, voice thick with sorrow and anger, the mix of what had been and what could never be. "I'm not trying to hurt you, just let me in." "No!" Maria shouted, recoiling. The very thought washed over her in nausea. She felt Alex shiver beside her, the grip on her arm tightening as he sensed her growing panic. "Look at her." The shadows beckoned, swirling, their whispers alluring and dangerous. "She was your blood, your bond. You broke her spirit. You owe it to her." With each pulse of darkness, memories flooded back, distant echoes of laughter marred by an accident that snatched her sister from the world too soon. Regret began to blossom within Maria, creeping in like a predator in the night. "Mom, don't listen," Alex pleaded, his voice rising in pitch. The shadows thickened, swarming around Maria, invading her thoughts, pressing against her mind. A chilling sensation washed over her, as if invisible hands dug deeper, reaching for her memories, her guilt. "Let go." The room spun violently, and she stumbled. Time felt warped, seconds stretched like minutes. "Remember your failures," the shadows demanded. She could see herself, wiser now but standing to the side of a mirrored version, one filled with shame, loss, and grief. It tore at her heart. "Alex, we need to leave," she yelled, urgency pushing through her fear. But the darkness only deepened, cementing their fate within these four walls. Just then, the banging echoed again, this time more frantic, a primal urge to be freed. The familiar face returned, and her sister's form pressed against the window, fingers curling around the edge. "Let me in, I can save you." "No!" Maria screamed. "You're not real." But doubt slithered back in, each heartbeat echoing within the confines of the prison they were trapped in. What would it demand? What had she unleashed? As the shadows pressed closer, encircling them, a thought pierced through the chaos. You pay the price, Maria, or lose what matters most. With one last shaky breath, Maria braced for the impending horror, prepared to confront the most dreadful reality of all. What if the darkness held the key to both salvation and damnation? The air thickened as Maria squared her shoulders, heart hammering like a warning drum. Her grip tightened around the knife, feeling the cold steel burn against her palm. The fleeting touch of assurance faded quickly, courage felt like a fragile flicker in a torrential storm. Mom, Alex's voice trembled beside her, his breath hitching. Maria glanced down, his wide, terrified eyes reflecting pure panic. She hadn't fully acknowledged it before, but he was just a child caught in this nightmare. The darkness wasn't just hers, it wrapped around him too. The shadows grew louder, a cacophony of longing and bitterness swirling around them. "Let us in," they whispered, teasing, a deadly lullaby threading through the chaos. "Let her in." "No!" Maria shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "I won't let you twist his mind." Alex shook, the icy dread of the shadows seeping into his bones. The more she resisted, the more determined they became, a pack of wild dogs smelling weakness. "Mom, please," Alex's voice quivered, pressing against her heart like a dagger. The shadows leaned closer, making promises that wrapped around him. "I can help you, I can help us." Ignoring them, Maria lunged toward the window, or her sister lingered like a ghost at the edge of comprehension. "Stay away from him." She raised the knife again, not as a weapon, but as a barrier. Her sister's countenance shifted, twisting from sorrow into anger. "You think your denial protects him? You punishing yourself doesn't save him either." The wails from the shadows echoed, enveloping their words into a haunting harmony. "You can make it stop, accept it." Each word felt like a slap. Maria staggered backward as memories surged forward, each one thrusting a dagger of guilt into her heart. Memories of laughter that transformed into screams, moments of joy that ended in tragedy. She felt the blade of despair twist deeper. "No!" Maria shouted again, her voice almost breaking. "I was not to blame. But the shadows slithered, like serpents weaving around her limbs, suffocating her resolve with doubt. "Don't you see?" they hissed, their voices a sharp-edged whisper. "You broke her. You felt her heart go cold. And still here you are." The shadows pressed closer, as if seeking entry inside her mind, grasping at her deepest fears. "You owe her the truth." Alex looked up at her, his fear palpable. "Mom, fight it." With a sudden surge of clarity, Maria wiped frantic tears from her eyes. "I will not let this darkness destroy us." She lunged again, stabbing into the thick air before her, but the shadows recoiled only slightly, their laughter echoing off the walls, taunting, twisting. "What will you give to keep the boy safe?" One shadow hissed, its voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What will you sacrifice?" A dread froze Maria in place. Sacrifice? The thought sent chills down her spine, evoking the sharpest memories, the warning of the elders, the impossible choices in dark fables, trading something precious for protection. In the silence that followed, it crept upon her. Could the answer be found in her past? Would she have to face the very thing she had avoided all this time? The banging returned, louder and more frantic on the window, her sister still staring with that hollow gaze. "Let me in, remember it all." The shadows surged, entrapping her and Alex in a whirl of torment. "Decide, Maria." An overwhelming wave of despair crashed over her, nearly dragging her under. And in that moment, she realized, the shadows were feeding off her fear, her grief. But they also wanted something more, the truth of her past. Maria inhaled deeply, defiance rising. She had one fleeting moment to act, to confront both the darkness and her own fractured memories. The ink-black tendrils crept closer, ready to consume them. Before the reality suffocated her completely, Maria felt a spark of determination ignite deep within. "Enough!" she declared, voice echoing in the churning chaos. She would have to make a choice. But at what cost? Could she bear facing the shadows of her past, or would they drag her son into an abyss she thought was buried? Forever? As she gripped the knife tighter, a whisper curled through the air, "Will you risk it all for salvation?" The question hung heavy, laden with foreboding, and as that last thought echoed, she braced for the transgression about to unfold. Maria's eyes darted, searching for anything to latch onto, something solid in the swirling chaos. The shadows snarled, pulling at her in an ever-tightening grip. They wanted her confession, her fear, her guilt. With a deep breath, she steeled herself. "I won't give you anything," she yelled, her voice louder, fiercer than before. But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her insides. Could she really bury her past? The phantom of her sister's voice chilled her flesh. "The truth is your weapon, Maria." Alex, still trembling beside her, clutched her leg. "Mom! Please don't let them win." His innocent plea struck a chord in her heart. He was so young, so unaware of the depths of the horror surrounding them. The shadows, sensing the crack in her armor, bared their teeth. "Give us what we seek," they cried, their voices rising like a thunderstorm. "Give yourself to the darkness." A cold sweat broke out across Maria's brow. "No, I refuse." Desperation clawed at her gut. But what if she had to? What if that was the price for Alex, for his safety? The air shifted. The window rattled, the heartbeat of the night nearly drowning out her thoughts. Her sister's face pressed against the glass, lips moving silently like a cursed incantation. Maria looked back at Alex, who shook his head, a desperate plea not to be consumed by the shadows. "Mom! They're lying!" he cried, fear spilling out in ragged breaths. "Just hold on to me. You are strong." The shadows convulsed in rage, their whispers turning to roars, swirling into a vicious cyclone of darkness. "You cannot escape the truth, Maria. We will find it. And when we do, he will be ours." Just then, the shadows lunged forward, a black maelstrom rushing towards them. Maria's heart raced. She clenched the knife, grounding herself. "Stay back!" she shouted, the metal glinting in the dim light. "You think I fear you? I fear for him." And with that, something inside her snapped. For a moment, the shadows hesitated, taken aback. Maria felt a surge of anger. It was raw and fierce, radiating from her very core. I will confront you. I will face my past. The shadows hissed, their fury intensifying. Face it? You, who run from your reflection. Do not dare challenge us unless you're prepared to lose. With a scream, the shadows struck, clawed hands reaching for Alex. No! Maria lunged, knife outstretched. In that frantic moment, as steel sliced through the air, a fissure opened in the darkness, revealing fragmented memories, the laughter, the cries. The moment everything shattered, each memory played like a video on repeat, painting the truth in bloody hues. She saw her sister as a child, vibrant and unchanged, and then the tragic moment, the accident, the blame, the guilt so profound it had sealed her heart shut. Mom! Alex shouted, his small frame trembling against the encroaching darkness. Inhaling sharply, Maria faced the tempest of sorrow. What have I done? She whispered, and yet the shadows began to quiver, as if her admission shook their very foundation. More! They screeched, demanding more as their power began to wane. What else? Her grip loosened slightly on the knife, heart racing, unsure of the next step. Had she dug too deep? Would this act of strength leave her exposed, vulnerable? Would revealing her pain destroy her chances of saving Alex? But as she looked into Alex's pleading eyes, a fierce instinct to protect surged within her. The shadows writhed as she recalled the moment of hope, the promise that she would undo her mistakes, that she would not let the darkness win. In that flicker of determination, she whispered the truth to herself, I'm ready. The shadows froze, and a deafening silence enveloped them. The calm before the storm loomed, pregnant with uncertainty. What awaited beyond this threshold? Will you accept the consequences? The shadows crooned, their seductive tone returning. Maria's heart pounded in her chest, and she braced for whatever terror awaited. Or will you let him fall? The air pulsed around them, thick with expectation, while her sister's face haunted the window, awaiting the choice she had yet to make. Would she open the door to her past? Would she show her son the darkness she harbored? As she stood at the edge, the shadows swirled tighter, the question hovering like a charged electric current. What would she sacrifice to save Alex? And with that thought lingering in the air, the storm began to brew. The shadows began to pulse, swirling in a frenzy as if reacting to her decision. Maria felt an electric tingle radiate through her fingertips, seeping into the knife she clutched. She could almost hear the echoes of her sister's laughter mixed within the chaos, taunting her, reminding her of joy long extinguished. Mom! Alex's voice cut through the dark like a lifeline, pulling her back. His trust fueled her determination. We can do this together. Don't leave me. She swallowed hard, drawing courage from the innocent plea. I won't let you down, Alex, she whispered, her eyes fixed on the pulsating mass of shadows. I will face the truth. Then face it you shall. They screeched, the cacophony growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. The reality around them shimmered as a vortex opened, revealing twisted scenes that spun wildly, her memories laid bare, like wounds torn open. Look! The shadows laughed, a sound like cracking ice. A vision unfurled before her, the accident, frantic screams, the twisted remains of a car. It all flooded back, heavy and suffocating. Maria hadn't been able to save her sister, the guilt had anchored her to this very moment. Feel it, Maria. They taunted, their voices layered and serpentine. This is what you have buried. This is the darkness you dare not confront. She staggered, the knife trembling in her hold, but she wouldn't succumb. Alex remained steadfast at her side, grounding her in the overwhelming tide. Suddenly, a surge of clarity swept over her. I loved her. Maria yelled, her voice steadying. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But I can't hide it anymore. I will not hide. The shadows convulsed as if struck, recoiling at her declaration. You dare defy us? They hissed, their voices growing frantic. You think love can save you? Love is what binds us. Love is my strength. She took a step forward, heart pounding, the knife a mere extension of her resolve. I will face the truth and reclaim my life. You will not take Alex. The air thickened, charged with a palpable fury. The shadows flared, expanding, morphing into grotesque forms, distorting faces from her memories, lost reflections of everything Maria feared. Her sister's face twisted into a grotesque mask of accusation, eyes dark and hollow. "Why did you leave me, Maria? Why did you let me die?" The figure wailed, its voice chilling her bone deep. "Stop. It wasn't my fault." Maria's protest rang hollow. Doubt crept back as the guilt twisted tighter around her heart. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to remember the laughter, the love that had once filled their home. "I would do anything to bring you back," she cried out, the words slipping through like a plea, as if searching for forgiveness. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, a wall of pressing darkness crashing around her and Alex. She felt the cold claws of regret latch onto her ankles, pulling her down. "Sacrifice!" they roared. "What are you willing to give up for your son? What price will you pay?" Maria's breath quickened, stinging in her throat. "No. I refuse to be their pawn." She felt the pressure of her own pain melding with an unyielding conviction. "You don't own me anymore." With a fierce scream, she plunged the knife into the darkness, her strike fueled by every ounce of love she had for Alex. A blinding light erupted from the blade, slicing through the obsidian storm. Light met shadow in a shattering collision, waves of energy rippling around them, and for a moment, the darkness faltered. "Mom!" Alex's cry was urgent, full of fear. "What's happening?" But as light enveloped them, Maria's thoughts spiraled. Had she made the right choice? Would this act of defiance simply unleash a new horror? As the light began to consume the shadows, she felt the world around her crack like shattered glass, faces swirling like a mirage. What awaited on the other side? Would acceptance save them or trap them in an even bigger nightmare? With heart racing, she closed her eyes, ready to embrace whatever would come next, but the light dimmed abruptly, returning them to the horrific chaos of shadows. The real battle had just begun, and she was unprepared for the price of her rebellion. And as dark laughter echoed in the depths, a chilling thought flickered in the back of her mind: had she truly broken free, or merely crossed into a far darker realm? The storm continued to brew, but now, it was filled with something more sinister than before. What terrible revelations would await them in the aftermath? The darkness flickered, twisting and churning, revealing jagged forms moving hungrily toward them. Maria and Alex felt the air thicken, choking them with a rancid smell like decay mingled with something sweet and metallic. Shadows seeped into reality, whispering promises and threats all at once. "Remember, Maria," the throaty voices echoed, circling them like vultures. "You chose this. You think light can banish darkness? It only reveals it." The ground trembled beneath their feet, bricks cracked, and the earth split open, gaping like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. A sharp pain sliced through Maria's heart, an almost physical ache for her lost sister. But if she let that grief seep into her actions, she knew the shadows would feast on her sorrow. "Keep fighting, Mom!" Alex shouted, clutching her hand tightly. His small fingers had a strength that eclipsed the darkness around them. That connection ignited a flicker of hope, reminding her that fear could breed courage. As the grotesque figures formed closer, Maria noticed they were not mere specters, they bore the distorted faces of the lost, the forgotten. Each one a reflection of grief, each one a pathway back to the past she couldn't escape. "Do you want to see her again?" A shadow loomed before her, its eyes flickering like dying flames. "You merely need to give us what we want. Let us in." "No!" Maria's voice thundered, resonating in the chaos. "I will not barter with you." The vision shifted and darkened, her sister's face emerging from the shadows. But this time, it was not a visage of love, it twisted into something accusing, lips twisted into a snarl. "You abandoned me. Choose." "Choose what?" Maria's voice cracked. "What is it you really want?" A cacophony of howls erupted, as if the shadows reveled in her desperation. "A life for a life. Release your love, release your son. Sacrifice." They chanted, and the shadows slunk closer, clawing at her resolve. "Stop!" Alex cried, trembling. She could feel the warmth leaving his hand. She couldn't let go. Not now. Not ever. That piercing gaze of her sister morphed again, shifting into the comforting laugh she had once known. Maria. Let go, and I will come back. Maria's heart raced. No. I won't abandon him. She tightened her grip on the knife, which tinged her palm with warmth. It was not merely an object of power but a symbol of her will, her love for Alex. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, a deep rumble surging underneath. Cracks spiraled around them, growing larger, threatening to swallow the very fabric of reality. Embrace your fate, Maria. The shadow screamed, fangs bared, reaching with icy fingers that ignited the air like fire. You'll never escape us. Then I will fight. Maria shouted, her voice echoing against the darkness. She raised the knife high. With everything I am. Light burst forth again, pure and radiant, spiraling like a cyclone. The shadow shrieked, recoiling as if burned. But with that light came a terrifying realization. She had not simply forced back the darkness, she had begun to unravel something deeper. With every flicker, she felt threads connecting her to the shadow's deep sadness, untended grief, pain buried beneath layers of memory. The truth was more horrific than she'd imagined. It raced through her mind, keeping her rooted to the spot. Bring her back. Or face what lies beneath. The shadows bellowed in a terrifying symphony of rage and desire. Questions clanged inside her like caged beasts. What lay hidden in the depths? What terrible echoes of the past awaited her? Mom! Alex's terrified squeal pierced through her turmoil, pulling her back from the precipice. Her heart seized a sudden, poignant dread clawed at her insides. What if we genuinely confront it? The spiraling light flickered, revealing multiple paths snaking through their darkened reality. They were at a crossroads, and the air buzzed with dread. Would this choice lead them deeper into an abyss or grant them the freedom they desperately sought? And as the shadows hissed, choose wisely, Maria felt the weight of destiny settle on her shoulders. What if she made the wrong choice? Would facing their greatest fears claim them, or could it somehow set them free? The haunting laughter of the past echoed in her ears, urging her forward into the maw of uncertainty. The light hummed around Maria, its pulse matching the hammering of her heart. She glanced down at Alex, his face pale, eyes wide with fear. Mom, what do we do? His voice trembled, an echo of the panic threatening to consume her. Stay with me, she whispered, though uncertainty gnawed at her throat. The shadows shifted, hungry for her hesitation. Maria took a deep breath, focusing on the warmth of her son's hand. She couldn't let the darkness take him too. Choose a path. The shadows chanted, their voices rising like a storm. The darkness knows your desires, your regrets. What will it be, freedom or sacrifice? Maria's mind raced with images of her sister, laughter now twisted with betrayal. The pain felt raw, alive. What do I want? She mumbled, clenching the knife. Desire is a snare. The shadows shrieked, surging closer. Embrace it or perish. A plea rose in her chest, desperate and grasping. I want to confront the pain. I want to face it. Foolish girl. The shadows howled, a wave of icy despair crashing around them. You think you know what's waiting for you? Before she could reply, the light flickered, depicting a flickering scene. In an instant, they stood before an old, decrepit house, her childhood home, a place suffocated by memories. It was eerily quiet, the door slightly ajar as if inviting them in. The air felt dense, prickling with something sinister. Face what lies inside. The shadows hissed, their laughter reverberating through the air like a funeral bell. The house loomed larger, exuding a familiar, suffocating smell of dust, decay, and something else lost. Mom, I don't want to go in there, Alex breathed, fear quaking his small voice. I know, Maria whispered, her heart heavy with dread. But we have to. Together, they took trembling steps toward the door. With each creak beneath their feet, the shadows writhed, shaping into grotesque figures at the threshold, caressing the walls as if to shield Maria from the truth. No! She shouted, pushing forward. I will not hide anymore. As they crossed the threshold, the air inside chilled, sealing them in a vault of dark memories. Dust motes hung in the beams of light slicing through the grimy windows. The wallpaper, once bright and cheerful, now hung in tatters, peeling like her fractured memories. A rasping whisper echoed through the halls, but it was not her sister's voice. It was low, dripping with malice. "Welcome home." The shadows coalesced into forms that clawed for attention, faces contorted with grief and wrath. Everyone she had ever lost stared back at her, mouths twisted in silent screams. "Mom!" Alex's shout broke through her paralysis. "Look!" She turned her head, the dread pooling in her stomach. At the end of the hallway, a door loomed, slightly ajar, with shadows seeping like smoke. Laughter echoed from within, sweet yet horrifying, a siren's call pulling her closer. "Do you want to see her? Your sister?" A shadow teased, its voice slithering through the air, coiling around her heart. "Just take a step, find out what she knows." Maria's breath came in short gasps, every instinct screamed against it. "No! I won't let you fool me." But doubt curled in like smoke. What lay behind that door? What truth could cut through the torment? "Choose." The shadows taunted again, their voices thrumming through her. The specters began to sway, a monstrous dance of despair, calling for her to join them. "Mom, don't listen." Alex's small voice fractured through the chaos, pulling her back. But even with his words, the darkness inched closer, tightening its grip. Maria weighed the choice: face the horror or succumb to despair. Each option clanged like metal in her mind. "If I confront this, I might truly understand," she thought, even as fear gripped her throat, and at that moment of decision, the shadows surged, a deafening roar erupting as if they knew she was wavering. "Are you ready?" They hissed with malicious glee, their icy fingers reaching out, ready to draw her into their twisted realm. Heart racing, she took a step toward the door, knowing it could either be her salvation or undoing. And behind it, an ominous laughter echoed from the dark, promising revelations that could shatter everything she thought she knew. The darkness beckoned, laden with secrets and terror. What waited on the other side? Would they find their freedom, or would they be ensnared forevermore? Maria stood at the mouth of the darkness, heart hammering in her chest like a wild bird trapped in a cage. The whispers swirled around her, gnawing at her resolve, but she gripped Alex's hand like a lifeline. "We can do this, together," she murmured, just so he could hear, trying to infuse her voice with strength. "Mom," Alex's voice trembled with fear. "What if it's bad? What if it was?" Maria felt the weight of those words settle over her like lead. "We can face the truth. We'll face it together," she promised, even as dread twisted in her gut. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the doorknob, her palms sweaty and trembling. As the door creaked open, a gust of cold air rushed out, sending shivers down her spine. The laughter echoed louder now, almost enticing, like it wanted to pull her in, like it knew her darkest fears. Inside, the room was suffocating, walls painted with shadows squirming in the corners. Memory and darkness merged as if they were one, giving her little room to breathe. Old photos lined the walls, flickering as the light dimmed. Each face smiled at her, but their eyes were hollow, filled with expectations left unmet and sorrows submerged. "Maria," the voice echoed, soft yet demanding. It was her sister, but twisted, distorted by pain and longing. "You need to let me in. Let the truth set you free." Her fingers flexed against the knife, every fiber of her being screamed for her to resist. "No. You aren't real. You are just a shadow." Maria shouted, the conviction rising in her voice. The shadows roared in discontent, pulsing with anger. "You forgot us. You left us behind. And now, you veil the truth." Maria's heart lurched. She had spent so much time trying to bury her past, to outrun her mistakes. Gradually, those mistakes became a shroud, a dark blanket over her life. They thrived in her silence and guilt. She was pushed to the edge now, faced with the wounds she had long sought to hide. "Listen to her." The shadows shrieked, their voices blurring with rage, each one demanding acknowledgement of their existence. "Mom!" Alex grabbed her arm tighter. "You're stronger than them." Pulling on her resolve, Maria took one step forward. "I will not let you take him." I will not let you steal my son's life like you stole hers. Her voice pierced the veil of despair, echoing back at her with defiance. Then risk everything. It hissed, black tendrils curling into the space between them, weaving closer as if they could siphon her resolve. Risk him. You will pay the price, Maria. You'll see. No. She howled, raising the knife, letting anger and fear fuel her. With every ounce of strength, she lunged into the darkness. I claim my truth. I face what you cannot. As the knife met the shadows, a crack like thunder filled the air, and the darkness screamed. The collapse of that weight crashed into her, spilling forth memories, laughter, cries, the wrenching pain of loss as if the past erupted from her very core. The room whirled with chaos, visions swirling everywhere. She saw her sister again, laughing with joy. Then the car's screeching tires, the shattering glass, everything spiraled uncontrollably. But amidst that engulfing terror, she also glimpsed hope, a light that beckoned from within the storm. You can't hide anymore. The shadows shrieked, howling with fury. I won. Maria screamed back, the knife gleaming like a beacon in the dusky air. Just then, clarity washed over her. She wasn't drowning, she was breaking free. With a forceful shove, she finally threw open her heart, letting all the memories flood back. I loved you. I failed you, but I am here. I choose love. With love, I can face anything. The darkness trembled like it was in shock, shrinking back from the light erupting from her chest. The structure of shadows cracked and splintered, each memory pushing back with ferocity. The faces of those she lost emerged briefly before fading like morning mist. And then from that swirling mass, emerged her sister, her form returning to its youthful brightness. Maria, she whispered, sadness and forgiveness mingled in her eyes. Thank you for remembering. I'm sorry, Maria choked, tears streaming freely. For everything, for not being enough. For running away. I want to make it right. A bright glow enveloped her, and the shadow shrank away, disintegrating into nothingness. The room brightened, warmth flooding in, chasing away the cold. With that warmth, an unexpected sense of peace filled Maria's heart. As the last remnants of the darkness disappeared, Maria felt the grounding weight of Alex's small hand in hers, a tether binding them together. Mom, it's okay. You did it. He said, eyes sparkling with a mix of awe and relief. The shadows had been vanquished, but the memories remained a shared burden. But now, they felt liberating. She had faced what she feared most, her past, and somewhere deep in her heart, she felt her sister smile, a gesture she could hold within her forever. Maria sprinkled her fingers against the air as if to hold on to this moment. Then she remembered she would keep their stories alive. She would honor them in a way she hadn't before. Let us go home, Alex, she said, drawing in a steadying breath. Beyond the door lay a world washed clean, waiting for them. Together, they stepped into the bright daylight, leaving the shadows behind. And she knew they would forge ahead, a little scarred perhaps, but they would thrive. Hand in hand, they were ready to weave their new story, one bathed in the warmth of hope and love. The storm had passed, the battle was won. This was their new beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.